and that's what the song say. And I can do all things, and I can do all things.
Hey, Loving Life family, welcome back to another discussion about loving your life. It's your sis Crystal.
What's going on, fam? It's your brother Andre. We're excited to be back with you today.
Yes, indeed, with another discussion about loving your life. What's going on, baby?
Yes. Hey, girl. What is going on? What's going on? Hey, really, just being productive. Find myself kind of taking some time to relax, but also just being motivated as we approach the year end of 2021. Just trying to make sure I'm staying focused on, things we're working on, different projects, as well as taking time to take care of, self-care. What about you, girl? You good? You straight?
I'm good. Just the whole house took a hit with a cold, so still trying to shake these cold symptoms. But thanking God, we're almost on the other side of it and preparing for the holidays.
For sure. So, babe, one of the things that you brought up the holidays. Hey, what I was sitting there thinking about, I was talking to a group of friends earlier in the week, and we were discussing just the holidays. And not only the great time of getting together with family, food, fun, and spending time, but we also began to talk about some of that turmoil and some of those things that come along with the holidays. Like, everybody got that uncle. That uncle that drink a little too much.
Yeah.
Or those family issues. And so our discussion, we ended up talking about how crazy it is sometimes during the holidays where we gather to have fun and catch up. But sometimes the unexpected occurs, and then it just becomes like a chaotic situation. Have you ever experienced something like that?
Yeah, for sure, man. It goes back to the issue that we as humans, we're all messy and we have our issues, but we got that handful of family members, man, that just a little extra be turning up, and it's like, Lord, I need a little bit of help. Just trying to prepare for it, try to keep your composure, not lose your cool.
So out of that discussion, I thought this was a cool topic to discuss today. Really looking at casualties of external chaos. Casualties of external chaos. And so this was birthed out of a discussion with some of the homies. We were just discussing family gatherings for Christmas, the holiday season. But sometimes out of those gatherings, you get some arguments, bad feelings arise, just things that happened in the past come up, and at times it creates a chaotic situation. So, casualties of external chaos. What comes to mind, babe, when I mention that topic? Casualties of external chaos.
Well, before I dive in, remember this podcast is for educational purposes only. If there's additional support that you need, make sure you contact your professional healthcare worker and get the services that you need.
For sure. So, go ahead, girl. Jump right in.
Casualties of external chaos. Oh, man. There's a lot that comes to my mind. But I think the big thing is, like, how do you avoid becoming a casualty of the external chaos? And so, again, kind of as you said, baby, looking at the messiness of other people and really anchoring yourself in peace.
Well, I said people in general, because we all messy at times.
Right, but again, when you are on, you've set some goals. There's some things that you put in place that you're not going to be a casualty of other people's mess.
Right.
I'm sitting here. That's the lens I'm speaking from. Being able to, number one, you got to be anchored in peace.
Okay.
If you have internal peace, there's a lot of stuff that can go on outside of you that won't move you. And
Gotcha.
so that's a big part when I think about being someone becoming a casualty of external chaos. If you don't want to be a casualty, you have to do your own work to establish inner peace.
Right. Gotcha. That's important, that inner peace. Because you can't control necessarily what everyone else does.
Yeah.
But you can control what you do in your own life in a lot of ways that brings you inner peace. So that's a good point.
So that's a big one. I can go on and on. You want to jump in and give one?
Well, no, go ahead, girl.
I done busted out my notebook and stuff. So for the listeners, you might want to get your pen and paper and take some notes, because this is going to help us all.
All right. Well, as you kind of talk about that, as you get ready to kind of elaborate on that, I want to say, first of all, that word casualty, because the topic, casualties of external chaos. Well, casualty means you're badly affected. Obviously a casualty can mean loss of life, but in this context, we're talking about someone badly affected because of external chaos. Number one, you don't have to be a casualty of external chaos, meaning You don't have to be badly affected because of what someone else is doing. If you go to, in this context, we're talking about family gatherings and the holiday season and the time comes. But regardless of that uncle, the grandmom and them, cousins and them,
mom and them,
whoever, right? You don't have to be a casualty, meaning you don't have to be badly affected because of their behavior.
Right.
If it's something that's annoying you, that's a part of the inner peace, Crystal, you talked about. You can carry yourself in a way where it is what it is. I can't control them, but I'm not going to take on that stress. And before you know it, I'm acting out of character.
Right.
So that's a defining point I want to just put in there before we kind of elaborate more on this topic.
I concur with you, and please let me preference this also. Some of us are really delicate right now. The holidays are a time you're triggered during the seasons for multiple reasons. And being able to know what you're ready for, or the environments that you are able to be around and maintain a healthy mind and body.
Right.
And so that's a huge part. For some of our listeners, you may say, hey, you know what? This isn't the year. I'm not ready. I need to fall back and get some more healing before I can get into these spaces that may trigger me.
Yeah.
And so that's another important and mature conversation to have with yourself as well as loved ones. So I definitely want to make sure I make note of that. But to digress on what we talked about earlier, I think being able to accept that you can't control everything.
Right.
That's a huge one. Like if you know you're going to go in an environment that something is liable to pop off, being okay with like, hey, you know what? I can't control everything. And that's just a good pattern of thinking to have in life in general.
Okay. Well, now let me give our listeners a tip, because you said you can't control everything. That's a great point. Now, here is a tip. One way that you can help or avoid being a casualty of external chaos is there are times where you can control aspects of that holiday season. So case in point, if your family gathers every holiday, every Christmas or every Thanksgiving or whatever, right? One of the ways that you can play a role in controlling that environment or that atmosphere, now this may not work for everybody, but you may open up your home to be that place where people gather. Why do I say that? Because you can control the time frame. Come on now, right? Now, listen, I know it may be a little different for Thanksgiving and Christmas, like these very, big gatherings that usually can last, well into the evening hours. But oftentimes when you set an agenda for like a gathering with your friends or loved ones or whatever, you're setting a time frame. We're going to have this from this time to this time. So, part of a strategy to not be a casualty of external chaos, the items of that you can control, you look to do that because it gives you a greater sense of peace. I know I'm going to set this party from 3 p.m. to 7. A good 4 hours. When the 4 hours is up, I got another appointment. Hey, God bless y'all. You know how it be in the club. You flip the lights on and off. No, I'm just joking. But on the real, though, you set parameters. The invitations, here is the time. It's from 3 to 7, okay? Start at 3, end at 7. After that, we riding in the wind. But hey, I'm serious. So that's for somebody.
Yes, indeed. Another one is lean on your tribe. Who are your people?
Okay.
Being able to identify, like, look, hey, babe, whoever your tribe is, and when it's time to get goes, when it's time to chuck the deuces. Or even if you just need some support, if you feel like you're getting a little heated about something and you have that one to two people in that space that you're sharing with, like, okay, I'm messing around, say something. So it's your accountability.
Right.
So being able to have those things in place for you so that you don't fall off or get yourself in a bunch of mess that you really are not prepared to deal with in a healthy way.
No, but that's a good point. Time box yourself. Now, listen, I hope that, anytime you gather with family, friends, and loved ones, you have a great time.
Yeah.
But there are times you may need to time box yourself. If you know that environment, it's you have loved ones there you want to see, you want to spend time, but certain environments or certain places, you just can't stay a large amount of time there because it's the same old, it's okay. Allow yourself grace to time box yourself.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a great time for these 2-3 hours, and then I'm up out of there. There's nothing wrong with that. So give yourself, allow grace for yourself to leave when you need to leave.
Yeah,
It's okay.
It's huge.
Yeah.
I think another one is be intentional with how you're loving yourself and others.
What's going? So talk about that, man. What do you mean by
because
that?
there may be people that get under your skin, but how are you loving them?
Mm-hmm.
Are you sitting back and you judging them and talking about all the different things that they do to get on your nerves? And it's okay to acknowledge behaviors that get on your nerves, but if you are sitting on the other end just being judgmental, but you're not identifying a way to actually love them appropriately, because depending on the personality, you have to love people different.
Gotcha.
And that's okay. And so again, how are you being intentional with how you're loving yourself as well as those that you are around?
But a big part of it too is, even as we talk about casualties of external chaos. So I mentioned, casualty not being badly affected about what's going on around you. But the other big point, even in that topic, is the external chaos. So external means it's outside of you.
Yeah.
Right? And so because it's external, it's coming from a source outside of you, which means you don't have to necessarily be affected.
Right.
So some of this is a state of mind. People, you can't control what people do, what they say, the way they act. However, you can control you. And so just because these things are going on in an environment doesn't mean that you have to take on that stress that it may cause. It can only cause stress if you allow it. Okay? So I think that's a big key. Differentiating between what is external chaos that you may necessarily can't control, but what is internally going on with you that you can control.
Right.
And if you focus on the internal aspect of it, you won't get caught up in the chaos that's externally happening, thereby allowing you to be able to adapt, make some changes, bob and weave, as they say,
That's real.
I think another part of it too is even the chaos itself. So chaos is disorder, right? Now, again, you can't control someone else's life. However, you can be a person of order, still going to different environments that that you may not be accustomed to or that you're not as comfortable in. However, right, that's a part of being, unique, a human being, uniqueness. You don't have to take on the attributes of everywhere you're every environment that you're in. So just because a place or a person is chaotic, they're all over the place, wishy-washy, 1 minute this, 1 minute that, it's okay to be you and not try to fix it, not try to fix the situation, not necessarily try to fix the person or the environment. Enjoy your time while you're there. It's going to be what it's going to be. They're going to be who they're going to be until they decide to do something different. So for you, keep the focus on what you can control, what you bring to the table, and you can just enjoy the moment versus getting caught up with what's wrong, what you don't like, what so-and-so did or said. It's too much. Life is too important to get caught up in all those minute details that's not going to change unless the person wants to change. So why waste your energy worried about things that's beyond your control? Enjoy your life.
Yes.
And focus on those internal things that you have more control over, thereby increasing your quality of life.
And I think it goes to point number 5, boundaries.
Yeah.
I love boundaries. They're healthy. They let people know where you stand and what you're not going to tolerate. And it's very, very important that you strengthen that muscle. If that's an area that's very difficult for you, or get it in. If you struggle with setting boundaries, get around somebody, a mentor, anyone that can help you learn how to establish boundaries. But every person needs them.
Correct. And I think that's the biggest thing. Even, if we drill down this topic, casualties of external chaos, if we drill down to the topic, I think the very meat of this topic is setting healthy boundaries.
Yes.
Because you mentioned you like boundaries. However, there are a lot of people that have no respect for boundaries. And they don't like boundaries. So that really speaks to what you can control. You can control what you display. You setting healthy boundaries. And as you mentioned, that's the area that if you have not exercised that muscle, I encourage you to do that, because if you don't, people will run over you. The bottom line is, if you don't set boundaries, you think you're in order, they'll bring disorder. You like a organized environment. If you don't set boundaries, before you know it, it'll be a chaotic environment. And so it's important, knowing you and what you're working on, where you're headed, your goals, and setting healthy boundaries. Because if not, people will trample all over you. So I think that, man, that's huge.
It's a big one, and I don't want to minimize it like it's easy. This is not
Correct.
something that is simple, especially when you have been accessible, very easily accessible.
Yeah.
And when you start to put boundaries in place and the other party gets upset, depending on the nature of that relationship, if it's a mother, sibling, a spouse,
Yeah.
there's different things. There can be an increase in emotions that can be overwhelming, but you are not responsible for their behavior.
Right.
You are responsible for maintaining the boundary that you are needed for whatever reason. And you don't have to explain that to anybody. You being able to communicate what you need for right now, and they have to go and deal with their emotions because that is their issue.
I think this is one of as holistic health coaches, this setting boundaries is one of the things that we really help a lot of people with.
Huge.
As we're talking, I'm sitting there thinking about it. This is a very big topic that a lot of people struggle with, but also just need to be strengthened in setting healthy boundaries, because it's so key. I mean, think about it. Out of your life comes so much, your career, your family, your entertainment, your lifestyle. I mean, it has to do with your choices. And oftentimes, if you're not careful, your desires can be manipulated or by other people because they're making decisions for you, or you're making decisions based upon what someone else wants you to do, versus setting healthy boundaries and saying, okay, I've heard you say this, but this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
So I think that's huge, man, setting healthy boundaries. I can't stress that enough. Because out of those healthy boundaries comes your goals, your future, what you want out of life. And so that's a necessity.
For sure. And I think even as we digress a little bit on the boundaries, part of that is number 6 is healthy stress outlets, that you're talking, writing, exercising, that you are positioning yourself where you are constantly emptying yourself out of stuff that would normally weigh you down, stress you out, so that you're at a healthier place psychologically to set boundaries.
Right.
And so healthy outlets is a huge, huge one, I believe, in avoiding becoming a casualty.
Oh, that's a great point, because really you mentioned the importance of rest that provides a clear head.
Yes.
So you're not just running, and you're overlooking details, or you're not being aware of how you're being manipulated because you're just running and going. Yeah. Taking time to rest, reevaluate, and then make the necessary changes. Part of that rest and reevaluation, it comes a greater sense of awareness. And we talked about this a while ago, where some years ago we were just on the go so much that we were not really, there was some key details that we were not paying attention to because we were going from one task to the next. And so we had to set some healthy boundaries in what we were going to do and what we were not going to do. Setting healthy boundaries and saying no, so that we could be well rested.
Yes.
Thereby being able to get a bird's eye view of the situation versus looking at it from a lower level and not able to see it from a higher height. Because again, think about it. A bird's eye view, you can see down the road. You can see the grand scheme, the big picture of things.
Right.
But if you're so bogged down running from one task to the next that you don't have time to think, you don't have time to rest, you don't have time to be that visionary leader, you're just head down, hands to the plow, just grinding day in and day out, you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. Why? Because you're not rested well enough to, number one, think clearly, and you're not rested well enough to see beyond the immediate problem and look at solutions. You're just reacting versus taking time to be proactive. So, hey, that's a great tip too. Our listeners can definitely glean from that.
Yeah, for sure. A big one is laugh on purpose. Like, laughing brings so much healing to the body. It releases dopamine, serotonin, endorphins to help you physically and emotionally healthier. So finding different things and that looks different for everybody, whether it's comedy, if it's sitting around with friends, childhood memories. Identify ways that is going to help you to laugh on purpose. What are your thoughts, babe? We have fun with our kids. I mean, they are hilarious.
And that's, I mean, it's so beneficial, you know.
Yeah.
It's so beneficial to laugh and enjoy life. And I'm just be honest, this wasn't one of the things that, well, I can say this. Because of my experiences growing up, some of the environments that I lived in, I knew obviously I became hard into some areas just because of the areas we grew up in. Some parts of our life was pretty rough. The areas we lived in, what was going on in the environment. So you begin to take on those attributes because you're a kid, you're developing, you go into manhood. But then even in life, getting to a place where was just head down, hands to the plow, like I mentioned earlier, and had to learn that, wait a minute, life is so much more than that. So laughing is important. Enjoying life is so important. And this is one of the things we talk about, loving your life. This is why we're so passionate about it, because this is our life.
Yes.
And we've had to make the necessary adjustments to love our life enough to make changes, to live a better quality of life.
That's real.
Yeah.
Number 8, accept your imperfections and embrace the truth that you are not always right. Oh,
Yeah.
man, that's a big one that you need to swallow, digest, and let it disseminate throughout your soul. You are not always right. Mm-hmm. And that is okay. You don't want to always be right, because then you take on a God complex. And so being able to accept your imperfections is a beautiful thing. That's why we need each other. That's why we need God. And it's important, I think, and it's humbling.
Yeah. Wise people understand that they don't know it all, and they purposely include in their circle people that know a lot more than they do in other areas of life. Yeah. Why? Because they're looking not only to pour out, but they're also looking to be added to. And so when you surround yourself with people that have a different level of skills than you have, that have more experiences or different experiences or a different level of education than you have, or more knowledge in a particular subject than you have, you're operating out of wisdom because you realize you don't know it all, and you're being intentional about bringing people in your inner circle that can add to you versus only take from you.
Man, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Number 9, practice gratitude. Focus on what's going right in your life. It's so easy to focus on what we haven't accomplished. And those, yes, you set goals, but, set a process to accomplish that goal.
Right.
But at the same time, be thankful for what is working, what is operating beautiful in your life. Looking at the immediate things, your family, your health, the fact that you have shelter, not minimizing what people are praying for that you have. Being able to truly be thankful for that. And I'm not talking, again, I've mentioned this before about this whole toxic positivity, where you're focused so much on positivity that you don't even acknowledge the issues that need to shift in your life. You think you're going to think them away because you keep thinking positive. And that's an extreme. But having the balance that you acknowledge, yes, I have some more work to improve here, but man, I'm thankful for health. I'm thankful for a healthy marriage. I'm thankful for healthy kids. Yeah. Being able to slow down, which goes to point number 10, which is mindfulness. Slowing down and being grounded and in the present.
Yeah. Like I said, being in the present. I mean, we talk about being in the present, and it's easy for us now because we've been practicing it for some years.
Yeah.
But it's so important. It's so important. Because if you're constantly thinking about tomorrow and all your time and energy is spent on a year from now, 2 years from now, before you know it, that time's going to come and you're going to miss some very important milestones in your life and in your loved one's life. And so please, be present today. You deserve it. Your life is worth it. Your loved ones, whoever you're connected to, they're worth it. Be present for sure. I can't stress that enough. That is so important.
It's huge. I just want to put a pin here. Years ago when I first got sick and I lost so much weight, and I remember focusing on what I wasn't bringing to the table anymore as a wife because of the physical affliction. And it kept me from being present. To the point where feeling nervous, thinking, okay, how long is this going to last? Is his patience going to run out? Because he went from being a husband, now a caregiver. That I wasn't in the present and saying, God, I thank you that he is here. He is supportive. And even though I was saying those things out loud, my focus was more on what I had lost, what I wasn't capable of doing anymore, until, I was able to mature out of that season. And it actually helped my healing process to focus more on, man, our marriage has withstood a lot, and how amazing of a man that you have been in my life. And so when you shift your perspective, it helps the healing process. And so that is the beauty of being mindful and being grounded in the present.
Cool. Hey, well, listen. As we talk about casualties of external chaos, do yourself a favor. Number one, set some healthy boundaries. Make the necessary adjustments. Love yourself enough. Loving your life is loving yourself enough to make the necessary changes. Hey, babe, tell them where they can check us out at.
You can check us out on all of your podcast outlets, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google's Podcast, or Stitcher. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I hope that you gathered some tools today and take it with you during the holidays and close out the year well.
Peace.
Shout to the city that raised me. Shout to the people that made me. I'm from the 80s. I don't think mumbling wavy. I grew up like on a Jay-Z. Maybe I'm crazy. I ain't been wondering lately. Feel like it's there for the taking. Feel like I'm good with the changes. Know who I am, and that's the most dangerous stage.